Bob, we good to go?
All right, back online. So appreciate everybody hanging with us this evening. If you're watching, I know it's a little frustrating as we change seats repetitively, but now we've got the staff up here at the table, and we appreciate y'all sitting here and acting like you like us. Okay.
Yeah, you've got their budget hanging in the balance.
Anyway, bottom line is, we've got the budget. I think council's all read it, but what I wanted to do was give Randy a couple minutes to talk about anything that you would like to talk about, and then if there's specific questions of council about any department, individual budget, or likewise if there's a feeling, from a particular department of something that we've need to be looking at in the future, that maybe not this budget season, but what's coming down the pike.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Council members will recall at your last meeting we did, this just sounds terrible. I did a kind of a longer presentation on the budget, hitting sort of its key points, its organization, its strategic priorities, and how the budget matched up with each of them. All the folks that are sitting here at the table with you helped in the identification of those strategic priorities. And we knew at the time, as with the superintendent and her comments earlier, that we did not have enough money within the constraints that we had to do everything. So we had to prioritize those things that needed to be done most. And the focus is on doing the things that we already needed to do that we've had to not do throughout the recessionary period, rather than go out and expand the mission. We focused on our employees and their compensation. As you know, we are traditionally towards the bottom of the regional pay scales. That causes problems not so much during a recession, because few people want to leave to go to a neighboring jurisdiction to be the least tenured person in the position during a layoff environment. That's a type of career suicide. But as we've come out of the recession in the region and in the city, the folks that were already ahead of us continue to outpace us. And this budget, like the superintendent's, is designed not to get there in any fell swoop. We couldn't afford that, but to begin to make steady and regular progress. That was that, along with the school contribution, which I know was characterized as less than current years, but it's actually more than we increased. The rate of increase was more in this proposed budget than in last year's budget. So those were our priorities. There are very few other things, but the things that we did add are reinvesting in your CIP, in projects that have been on your CIP for years and languished. It's reinstituting small amounts of capital equipment funding in certain operational budgets, and things like that. As I had highlighted last time, very few, there's a few new positions, but they're not new needs. One is, or two of them are consistent with your recently approved grant application for firefighters and our goal to increase by one the average staffing available in our fire and rescue shifts. We started that progress in the current year. If approved and federally funded, we'll complete it in 2 rather than 3. And the other is a position that we would add prospectively when the demand for building inspections came up. And you'll recall in 2008, 2009, we reduced staffing there in response to a reduced workload and the other budget problems we had. Beyond that, there's not a whole lot of new things. The only really new thing, besides the CIP projects, which arguably are not new at this point, is increased funding consistent with the request that you got from the museum. You remember the presentation they made a couple of months ago and asked for some operational support. And while the museum's not new either, the idea of providing operational support for them is, so that's why I characterize that as new. But beyond that, that's really a very brief re-summation on the budget. Typically at this, we also present what we call the markup list as budgets change, and sometimes they change more than others as the General Assembly is sometimes still completing its work, and things are shifting as a result of that. They completed their work quicker than normal this session, so our revenue estimates are really not moving around. There were no major changes that weren't anticipated already and incorporated in the budget. So we have really the only significant, and significant is a stretch of a word, but is we got a little bit more library state aid. So you know, we need to put that to the library. So we'll bump up books and materials the appropriate amount to reflect that 100% state increase. It's not a very big number, is it? 4,600. It'll be significant for our library, but that's really it in terms of budget changes at this point. Department heads are here. If you've got questions for them, I asked them all to be here in case you did, and I'm sure that they would be glad to respond to any question you might have.
Well, Council, you don't have any questions for them?
Well, I just asked one that I've asked before.
Hold on, let's get you a microphone.
Primarily, I'm pretty loud when I,
Former teacher.
when I notice in all of our neighboring cities are decrying the fact that they can't hire enough police and fire, and I'm sure it goes to other ranges too, and their pay scales are probably higher than ours. So how are we making out? I guess the two chiefs would be the ones to answer. Can you get good applicants?
First, it's been difficult. We're competing with the rest of them,
Yeah.
and the fact that they're having a problem kind of exemplifies our problem, because they typically swallow them up before we get an opportunity to hire. We continue to do different things. I think we are doing a better job of selling ourselves at this point, and it may make a little bit difference with this process we're in right now. That's our hope. So, but it has been extremely difficult. Since I've been chief, we haven't been fully staffed the whole time. That's November 1st, 2006.
Okay.
I think to highlight one of the problems that Chief Holloway and I have when we're doing hiring is there's nothing like hiring and training your own folks. It's one thing to get qualified, sworn applicants from other jurisdictions, and that's nice when you capture a qualified and a good candidate, and that does happen. But I'm not sure exactly how long your training school is, but our basic academy is almost 19 weeks. And then there's 3 months of field training. And at that point, you know what we have? A very inexperienced police officer. So, so when we invest the kind of money and time it takes to train, to outfit them with uniforms, and to cover the shifts for that opening while they're in that lengthy training period, it's a challenge for us, and as well as for the fire department, to fill those slots and to meet the service demands of the city as they go up. For example, I was telling the city manager a couple weeks ago, I just did a quick and dirty study on our calls for service, and I think 2010 was the last year that we were below 10,000 calls for service, and we'll be 16,000 this year. That's a lot of extra workload. The good news, our Part A crime offenses overall have gone down during that time, but we get more calls, so I think that's an indication of folks turning to us to help them with other issues. There's sometimes that are non-criminal, disorder issues, domestic violence issues, and those kinds of things, which is great because we want to be there and provide those kind of services. But again, the difficulty is the training and meeting that lag time between identifying a qualified candidate, getting them trained, and then allowing them to grow and get some experience while they're on the job before. And so then it's a matter of keeping them, and the retention issue comes up.
So kind of a follow-up question to both of those. I mean, are you seeing any increase in number of applicants, coming out of the military with either military police backgrounds or military fire backgrounds in the applicant pool?
They typically, when they get out of the military, they're like DOD certified, but they're not state,
right.
Commonwealth of Virginia, or necessarily Office of EMS. So we've gotten, I think this time we had one applicant, I believe. We've kept in touch with him and encouraged him, because he is currently deployed, to stay in contact with us and watch our website.
Okay. So, I mean, is there?
He need training.
I agree, but I'd almost call it gap training. You know, what is it that you do in the federal government? And then, of course, what are the requirements completely different when you get into the...
On the law enforcement side, they have to go through the same academy. There's
Same
nothing,
academy.
there's nothing they give them credit for. And the good thing is, you know, that when you do, and we have gotten many of them in the past, we haven't gotten many recently, but there are some things that they already understand and know very well because of their worldview and their experience. Other things that they have to adapt, coming from a military, highly command-structured environment to a municipal government, especially a small town like Poquoson.
Right.
As I frequently say, Mayor, you know, not everyone's cut out to be a police officer, and not every police officer is cut out to be a Poquoson police officer.
Right.
So there's, you know, each community is different. So our needs here are different than what the surrounding jurisdictions' needs are and expectations we have for their performance, so.
Right.
Just one in general, and I talked to Chris a little bit about it. I see on animal control, the budget seems to have gone up just a smidgen, a little bit, when actually the calls hopefully should be going down with the addition to what Paws is doing in the community. And I'm not sure if that's a contract or how that all works out, how that plays out. And I do appreciate the additional help that they're giving to Paws. But I do notice, based on the actual calls, it looks like they're coming down. So hopefully that's going to be a trend we'll see.
I'll grab it.
I did reevaluate that, look at their budget request, and I was able to save $3,000.
Excellent.
And I believe it'll be even more. You know, the first year that they came up, that we sort of had a basic starting methodology for pricing. And by the next time we see this, I think our percentage should be significantly down, but it's a smaller percentage of a larger budget. And that's what hit us this year. Our percentage began to go down, but their budget accelerated quite a bit. But it should continue to go down. It may be half as much next year.
And how do we fare this year on overall healthcare costs? And, you know, the ones that hit us that we can't control.
The health insurance went up 7.6% this year.
So still outpacing inflation
Yes.
by a large margin.
Yeah, last year it went down. We were able to go down, so we're back to about 100% of 2015's budget, our healthcare cost. Our VRS rate, we were lucky it did go down, which was surprising, so we were able to save a little bit there.
Okay.
As the market improves, the state's investments, which are the backbone of the VRS fund, in good years, good things happen numerically, which is why in the recession, things were going in absolutely the other direction. They were underfunded and underperforming. And as the state and others have moved to better fund as a percentage, the liability and the markets are doing better. It's working in concert in a positive way. And in fact, had it not, we would not be able to have done some of the things that we've done in schools as well in the next budget.
Okay, very good. Other questions? Yes, sir.
My usual pet peeve every budget year.
Okay.
I don't mean to be pointing any fingers or anything, but last year we funded a storm drain project on Little Florida Road. Where are we in that project?
We're going to put RFPs out next month. We have a lot of utility relocation there, and the consultant took longer to do the design than we anticipated. But we're hoping to combine it with maybe some other, or look at the drainage project and at least get some of the pipes in the road. But a lot of utilities there, and we did get it through the Corps, so.
Good.
That's
The
one
core
near
process
Far
was
Street.
very long.
Is that the one near Far Street? We're talking about
Yeah.
right there at the corner?
Between Kathy Drive
Yeah.
and Cedar, yeah.
Because if we're ever going to have sidewalks in places that people really want them, we've got to put pipe in the ditches. I mean, that's just the bottom line. And I hope that each year we can take some of that highway money and do pipe projects.
Okay. Is there another one? Okay, so that was last year's. Is there another one in this year's similar?
More of Little Florida. We were basically looking on there. As I said, that project was a bit more challenging just because of all the utility relocation and also the wetlands in there, but there's plenty of ditching there to be piped.
Okay.
So.
All right. Thank you. Anything else? Another kumbaya.
Just a big thank you to you guys.
Is there something we should be looking out for in the future from the individual departments? I'm going to ask that question. Yeah, your fire trucks are all getting old. You know, I'm not saying that they are, Chief, please. Okay, but you know, where are we at in basically your assets?
Need a new police station. City manager and I've been working on, we work on this on a regular basis. We talk about it and we look at options for that.
Yeah, okay, I think we've all heard that, and, okay, so I just,
Talked to the planning commission already.
what are the things that we haven't thought about yet that we need to be hearing? And that's not a slam at you, Randy. Okay. Yeah?
I think it's important that we continue this kind of meeting with department heads, maybe on a semi-annually basis going forward as the projects that are under construction develop, to see the type of impact that new projects and new residents are having on services that we provide to citizens. I don't think we should wait until someone says, I'm over my head. I think we ought to talk about that on a regular basis. I think we're already starting to see potential impacts from that across the board. We're pretty much service-oriented, and so more folks are going to use more of our services, and so we ought to just keep that discussion going. That would be my recommendation.
All right. That sounds fair. Anything else? Okay. Thanks. I guess we'll close this up and we'll head into the public hearing. Thanks.
We'll see if we can get two.